This is Phil McArdle, Chief Heart Officer with RoomReady. This is the Room for Heart podcast, episode 1. And we are coming at you live, not live at all. This is recorded, but we're coming at you hot. My buddy Gerry Genna is with me on the show. Gerry is a collaboration partner. Collaboration partner development manager. That's your title, right?
Something like that. Doesn't matter what the title is, but it's a collaboration partner, business development manager, Phil. So I help the Cisco partners develop their collab practice.
Yeah. So all the new things that Cisco is releasing day in and day out, you are keeping a group of partners in the know, right? You're keeping them up to date. You're kind of empowering and enabling them so that they can go out and better serve all the clients that they represent. Is that kind of a good nutshell?
Well, that's exactly right. Not only the products, how to sell it, how to position them, how it makes sense for their customers.
Yeah.
How to be able to look at an opportunity and put the right, Cisco, we have so many products. So how do you put the right solution to the right product? You have folks that'll show up and they'll ask a customer, hey, I have all this. You want one?
Yeah.
That's not going to work. You need to ask questions. You need to find, almost like a doctor, ask questions, and I can't give you a prescription until I know what's wrong with you.
Right on. So I am super excited that you're doing the first episode with me. It kind of takes me on a little trip down memory lane. My kind of first foray into the business world was in a sales role for my brother's company. And my first ever sales trip to New York City, I was accompanied by you. And it's going to be kind of funny, I think, to hear my side of the story versus your side of the story. You were at that time not working for Cisco. You were working for a partner. You were working for a value-add reseller, and you were new in that role. And but when I heard about you, I heard about all your years of experience at Cisco and Tandberg, and so I thought you knew what you were doing. And then I was just like, oh, well, then I'm just kind of like along for the ride. I'm going to take some notes because Gerry's got it covered. He's the boss here. And meanwhile, this was a video opportunity, which was a little bit new to you. You were thinking I was the video integrator that was going to come and know what to do. And you were just going to be along to take notes. But so some version of that is kind of how it played out.
I haven't thought about that thesis you just brought up, but now you bring it up. That's exactly how it happened. There's no your version, my version. I actually thought, great, I'll drive. Phil will lead. I'll take no. Maybe I'll get you coffee.
Yeah,
I'll be the coffee guy.
Yeah.
And then we both got there and looked at each other like, go ahead, do your thing. And we got through it.
Yeah,
we did pretty well actually that day.
Yeah, so it was. We actually started in Hartford. We did like the great tour. Right. I think I got off a train, met you at a law firm, and we quickly discovered that we were both really good at taking pictures, and neither one of us was really good at asking the right questions. But yeah,
we did it with conviction.
Yeah,
we did it. We sounded like we knew what we were doing, and nobody questions that.
Yeah, no, that's
it.
Even each other.
Absolutely. But we got through it. If I remember correctly, it took a few months, but we actually closed that deal.
Yeah. We so we did that law firm, and then we hopped in the car, your car, because you drove up, and I had taken the train there from Boston. And we went to a financial partner in New York City. I mean, we spent the whole day together, right? We met in Hartford at like 9 a.m. and then we were together and actually even had dinner that night. And yeah, it was a blast. I don't think I've laughed so much since. We had a blast together. So that was again my first kind of sales foray into
I'm
the big
sorry your
city.
first experience was with me, Phil. I really am.
Whatever, dude. It was great, and I really I loved that day. I got to know you really well. We ended up swapping a bunch of stories, sharing a bunch of life together, and we actually visited uh, your office. You were in a co-working space. You had a kind of a one-man shop office, and you're a technology sales guy in New York City, and we go into your office, and on the shelf, kind of a little bit prominently off to the side, there was a box of 64 crayons. And I remember thinking, well, that's interesting. I didn't expect to
Strange, right?
see, a box of crayons sitting there. And so I asked you about it, and can you tell that story?
Yeah, sure. So those crayons were there to remind me of who I am, who I was, and where I was going. Those crayons meant a lot to me. When I'm the son of immigrants. We started off just like the stories you hear. Yeah, my parents probably had a quarter to their name. We didn't have much money. I remember early on in school being assigned. Just I think it was first grade. I had to color something, and Phil, I had one crayon. It was red. I
Yeah.
colored the whole thing red. Some darker red, some shades of lighter red, but the whole darn thing was red. And I presented it to the teacher the next day, who kind of commented I should have used more colors. I didn't have any.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford it. The money that we had was assigned for what it was. So that box of 64 crayons to me meant you made it. You can use however many colors you want now, but don't forget the struggle that you did to get there, the struggle other people are going through that
Yeah.
you may meet. Don't look down on anybody. And if you can help somebody along, help somebody along. But the reason I bought also a box of 64 and not the 128 was because I still have a long way to go. So that was why I did that, Phil. It was to remind me not only of where we were, where I am now, but where I want to be.
Yeah. No, I love that. I loved kind of the perspective, like if I got 64 crayons, man, I got a lot of color to play with here. And yeah, just the
Yep.
the attitude of, excited, approaching it with a grateful spirit. I loved it. And again, not
I remember the
necessarily
kids
something.
that had 8.
Yeah.
Even the box of 8, I looked at them, feel like they were rich. Wow, look at
Yeah.
that.
Well, I also remember that part, right? Didn't your parents like a year later or so get you like a box of 8 crayons, and you were just like, oh, we
A
made it.
year later, they got me that box of 8. I had the primary colors for them. They could do so much more. Uh, to me, you might as well have given me 10 Xboxes today put together. That's what it meant to me,
Yeah.
right? I was appreciative of the smallest things that my folks were able to do for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's super fun. So we're in New York. We're presenting to a law firm, to a financial company. We check out your office, and it was funny because we kind of had a kindred spirit that came out in the faith, because I actually had just moved from ministry into the sales role. And I can remember kind of telling you a little bit about my story, and how my brother invited me to join the business. And then kind of asking you more about well, what got you into kind of the collaboration or the meeting industry. And again, you told another story that I was just like, oh man, this guy's my people. This is a great story. And it was in a New York hospital. You wanna tell that one?
And I remember when you told me your story, I nicknamed you Padre for a while. You're the Padre, right? I'm
Yep.
like, okay, this explains why Padre and I were both staring at each other when we got to that first deal that we did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll tell you the story. I worked back in the 90s, I was working for a major telephony company. I was a manager, and we visited a hospital up in New York, Upper Manhattan, which is a children's hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I was meeting with the telecom contact, and we may have been talking about frame relay, from what I can remember. Just regular discussion about IT, and then I heard somebody out in the hallway, and they were pretty loud, and they needed an Italian translator.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody speak Italian? We need somebody to translate. And Phil, the first thing I thought about being a good, true Italian was my dad, who said to me, mind your own business. You don't know nothing. You don't know nobody. Don't get involved.
Yeah.
Don't go in there because you don't know what's going to happen. So I didn't say anything, Phil. I just sat there and kept talking, but that other little voice got louder and louder as she got more desperate out there. So I said to the IT person, I said, I speak Italian. I may be able to facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
She escorts me to the hallway. We stopped. There was a young lady frantically up and down the hall searching for somebody. I told her I spoke Italian. She said, great, follow me. And I follow her into a room. And inside the room, I see a doctor seated there watching a monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And on the monitor was a surgery going on live in the University of Palermo, Sicily.
Mm.
There was a little boy on the table, and they had just operated him. I found out later he was 12 years old. They had removed a rather large tumor from his tongue.
Mm.
This little boy wasn't able to eat normally anymore. He wasn't able to speak. He could barely drink other than with a straw. So they had removed the tumor, and he was bleeding. So
Wow.
in I come in to see this. I don't do really so well with blood. Now, I'm also a dad.
Right.
And I see a little boy up on the table there. I see the doctor frantically trying to, what looked to me, cauterize the tongue. And the doctor in New York sees me come in. Of course, I had my suit on.
Yeah.
I walk in, and he says, great, you're here. Can you tell him how to do? And he names some procedure.
Yeah.
And I looked at him, Phil, and I said, Doc, I don't know what you said in English, let alone try to tell this guy in Italian.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that, and he asked me, he goes, you're not from medical translations? Yeah, no, I'm your telecom rep. And you could see he was just like, oh. But he dumped it down, and we got the doctor through the procedure.
Yeah.
At the end of it, the doctor in New York says, you can't be here.
Yeah.
He says, you got to go. Thank you. And I leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it left an impression on me. Later that week, I get a call from the hospital, and they want to talk to me about the incident.
Mm.
So there's my father's head and my voice again. I told you. You try to do something good, see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So I travel up to the Bronx. We go. They say, we do need to talk to you about it. They bring me back to the same room.
Yeah.
And Phil, up on the screen are the kid and his parents.
Mm.
And they were just so grateful.
Yeah.
And overjoyed and thankful that I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And it left an impression on me. There was not a dry eye in the room. And I get emotional every time I think about it. And I said to myself, this is what I want to spend my life doing after that point. I would like to be in a position where we use technology to bring people together, no matter where on earth they are, no matter what time zone they're in, no matter what geography they're in, no matter what religion they are, no matter what color they are, no matter anything, that we could use these tools to make the world a little smaller. It made such an impression on me that about a year later, I became a channel person over at Tandberg.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's such like a cornerstone in your story, right? That's like, as far as origin stories go, like that's the beginning of what kind of propelled you forward. So you jumped in with Tandberg, and of course, Cisco in time acquired Tandberg. I would be curious, like, in the last like 15, 20 years that, you since that hospital incident, like what are some of the coolest advances you've seen? Like, what are some of the things that like just, man, like you get
Yeah.
so pumped being a part of it?
Even before 15 years, I remember as a child, my parents having angst that they hadn't seen or spoken to their own families in years. As a matter of fact, once a month, they afforded a phone call from the States to Italy, which was a big deal back then. And I remember them screaming over the line, and I'm thinking, do they want them to hear them yell over the Atlantic? Is that what's going on here? But the phone connection was so shoddy, and it was so bad, and it was such an emotional connection for them to actually hear voices from their family who they hadn't seen in years. Bring that over to what you said 15, 20 years ago, it hadn't changed all that much in all that time. Yeah, you started seeing some advances like that video call that I was in, but that video call was ISDN connections of 5 phone lines, and it was a hodgepodge. It was difficult to do. One of the biggest advances, look at you and me right now.
Right.
Look at this.
Yeah.
The fact that I forgot that we're not in the same room.
Right.
Of course, we're during COVID, right? And you're up in New England and I'm in New York City. I forgot that you're not in the same. Just this is huge. Just the fact that you and I could chat, and from a chat escalate it to a video call and be able to speak real time. I would say that's probably the largest, the biggest change. The costs are nothing now. We're not paying for the access; it's the internet.
Yeah.
Right. So having that internet availability changed just the way we live, breathe, play every day. My kids are on Xbox with their relatives in Scotland and in Italy and in South America, and they think nothing of it.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas just a generation ago, the tears that I saw when you heard someone say hello.
Yeah.
Right. We take it for granted. The world's gotten smaller. We can meet with anybody anytime, share ideas. We can grow together. We could use this internet for what it was really made for, and this is it.
Yeah. Yeah. We, obviously my brothers and I, have this technology company. And so, this is going to sound like, oh, this is not that big of a deal now that COVID happened. And like, there's, kind of this more mass adoption of these tools. But, this Christmas, I had moved into a new house. It was our first Christmas, in a new house. And typically, my family here in the Boston area flies to Illinois because my whole family is in Illinois. So typically we're the ones that go, and we're in Illinois. But this year I was like, hey, I got a new house. I want my whole family to see my new house, and it's big enough to hold everybody. So I was super excited and had a lot of, excitement and pride around having everybody come to my house. And so everybody, got plane tickets and booked travel. And, we had Walter, who's now 1.5 years. He was under a year old. And there was another baby in the family, baby Josephine, who was, just a few months older than Walter. And my mom had been visiting a friend in a nursing home and got shingles like 2 weeks before the trip, and did not, feel okay coming and being around the babies. Right. Well, I actually have a WebEx Teams board in my house that I use for work. So a 55-inch display with, the camera at the top that's the speaker tracking, like you move around a room and it follows you and gives, the best view. Has the, the microphone. You could probably hear Walter pitter patter of little feet running around above me right now, actually. But we, and then my brother actually went and set up another endpoint. He set up a room kit in my parents' living room. So my parents sitting in their living room, again, like the Cisco technology with the camera that, finds
to the TV.
Yeah, connected it to the TV. So like right above my parents' TV in their living room was a Cisco room kit. I have the Teams board that we set up in the living room, and so my parents got to participate And, just like we kind of set it in the place of the couch. So they literally were sitting kind of in my living room in New Hampshire, in their living room in Illinois. And, obviously we didn't get to give them hugs. So it wasn't quite as good as being there, but pretty dang close, right? Like they still got to participate in gift opening and, seeing the grandkids run around and play and interact. And then, we fast forward a few months down the road and we're in COVID. And one thing that you said a couple seconds ago, also just kind of spurred, I remember you and I talked, during COVID and like you said, like we were just chatting, we were using WebEx Teams, kind of chatting back and forth. And then you were like, actually just hop on video real quick. And sometimes it's just so funny how like calming it can be to see a friend, right? Like there's just something about the visual presence of someone, their mannerisms, their smile, that, like hearing someone's voice, seeing someone is kind of that next level of like, all right, we're good. Like, and I can remember just like, it was like, okay, it was just so good to see you in the midst of some of that early chaos, back in late March, early April. And really appreciate how video delivers that.
It's been interesting, some of the things that we've been doing during COVID. I've watched people have happy hour together.
Yeah.
I was part of a surprise birthday party.
Oh, no way.
Which was very, very interesting. Yeah, the wife put it together, sent us all the WebEx invite.
Yeah.
And at the last minute, said to her husband that they needed to have a call with their financial advisor to go over some things.
Yeah.
And then he came on, and we were all there. We wished him a happy birthday. Easter, we were able to at least have dinner with my in-laws.
Yeah.
So we put the laptop on the table.
Yep.
While they were eating and we were eating, and we made jokes past the salt or
right.
Okay, but it's been this has been for at least me a mental salvation as well.
Yeah.
To be able, like you said, meet with friends, meet with family, just sit together, because this has been hard for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not. This is the first time. I know sometimes your friend goes through a hard time, or your relative goes through. We're all going through a hard time, and this medium's helped people come together. Look, even one of our partners has a client who's psychologist.
Yeah.
So they're meeting people via video now.
Right on.
The number of medical, telemedicine meetings have just quadrupled or quintupled in the past couple of months.
Yeah.
Just out of need.
Yeah. Yeah. We, we just kind of made me think. We actually had a coworker that was down in Brooklyn, kind of when the world went nuts, that March, like 15th, 16th period of time. And, we actually drove down and picked her up and invited her to live with us. And we thought, like, she's probably going to be with us for a couple of months. And it turned into 7, right? She actually just kind of moved back in not too long ago. But, we didn't know what was going to happen. And we actually ended up leveraging technology. We had, my wife remote working from Harvard here. We had myself, another one of my coworkers remote working from our house. We had my daughter who was doing, remote school. We had, Walter running around. So we kind of had our own little commune here for support. But, the value in being able to like get out beyond just our little commune and see and interact with people has been incredible. So my brother and I were talking not too long ago about, return to work, which is kind of funny. I heard somebody say something, we heard the new normal for a while. I heard somebody recently say the next normal. And it made me chuckle because we're just cycling through normals, like adjusting and moving on.
Right.
And then my brother was talking about one of his neighbors that, used to travel to Mexico. for work, and she would get a lot of people saying, "Oh, I bet the Mexican food's really great down there," and she would say, "Except for down there, they just call it food." and I feel like that's kind of where we're getting to with remote work, right? Like, it's kind of just work.
This is just work.
Yeah, and the world is just kind of understanding and accepting that it doesn't really, because of these tools, right? Like, it, for a lot of jobs, like, it's remote work is just becoming work. And so I kind of wonder, like, as you're thinking about the next normal, what are you kind of thinking is going to be important, or how this technology is going to be leveraged? Like, what's that looking like in your head, do you think?
I think it's going to be a hybrid of what we're looking at today. Because we're in the industry, you and I have done this forever. Yeah. We didn't blink an eye.
Yeah.
A lot of people are experiencing this for the first time. And it's taken off, and it's allowed this country to continue being productive. It's allowed us to keep having our incomes, those of us who are lucky enough to be able to do this. But I think it's going to be a hybrid, Phil, where, let's face it, nobody comes over to me while I'm sitting here and says, "Hey, you want to go out to lunch? You want to talk about the game?" We're really, really working a lot.
Yeah.
I kind of miss having somebody to walk over and just dialogue with and socialize with. I also miss sitting with my partners and having lunch or dinners and being able to discuss things face to face. Not that this isn't great. It is.
Yeah.
There's also a lot that can be done in person. Like you and I, the experience we had taking pictures and both of us looking at each other like the other one was going to, right? We wouldn't have had that over video.
Yeah, right on.
So there's going to be a place for work. I think what we'll see is a lot of these companies who've never, ever allowed work from home have no choice now. They have to allow work from home. I think you'll see a hybrid situation where I'll go to the office if I have to, not because I have to, but if I need to, if I want to. If I want to have a meeting with a customer face-to-face, if I just need to get away from here because my kids are having a play date or whatever, and for whatever reason that you don't need to be that you may need to be in an actual office, you're going to see that. You'll also see, though, the tools, at least Cisco is looking at making the tools touchless. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to go and touch the touch 10 anymore. So it's voice and voice command, facial recognition, being able to walk into a conference room and let's say if there's too many people in that room, the video endpoint tells you, hey, there's another empty room down the hall. Why don't you use that one?
Yeah.
Right? Because, due to COVID. So that's what I think is going to start happening. It's not going to happen anytime within the near future. But I would say around July, August of next year, you'll see a lot more returning to the office.
Yeah.
One of my partners tells this really great story that everybody was demanding to go back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
So against his will, the CEO said, "Okay, let's everybody go back Monday."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, and then they spent all day avoiding each other. So,
yeah.
So we need that social interaction, but that right now it's not going to happen just yet.
Right.
Put it off, but it will happen.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. And, it's funny, right? Like the types of technologies that we thought were going to be like the next big thing in our industry are all of a sudden not, right? Like I remember, March, April, we were looking into like the end of 2020 and looking into 2021 and being like, man, huddle rooms are going to be the next kind of big green space that, and Cisco was racing with the RoomKit Mini and, other manufacturers were, preparing for all this huddle room technology. Now it's like, I don't think anybody's going to stuff 3 people in a 6x10 room anytime in the near future. Right. So I think that, like when we, kind of do get more back to the office, I think you're right. I think, people that were used to commuting into cities and going to the office 5 days a week, I think it's going to be more like a 2 or 3 days every couple of weeks, right? And it's going to be for kind of bigger like group kickoffs, like, hey, we're getting ready to do this project. Let's make sure we get everybody on the same page. And so now, I did have another enterprise client that made that comment to me. Now that I'm saying that, where they said, hey, we're definitely rethinking our framework, where we're going to probably need more rooms that are like large and training rooms, because we're going to kick off a big project, and we're going to end up with like 30 people in a training room, and we need a good meeting experience for the other 15 people that aren't able to get there for whatever reason, right? So I definitely see that some of what we thought was going to be our bread and butter is 100% changing.
And things that we thought were defunct are starting to make a comeback. Cubicles.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're back in demand because that allows you to have separation.
Yeah.
Right? So cubicles combined with what you said, large conference rooms where you can at least socially.
Yeah. I might be. I'm my ADD is going to kick in, right? I'm going to be thinking about lunch for sure. So, yeah.
But where you could be socially distant, at least 6 feet from each other, and be able to interact with each other at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's going to be interesting. Personally at RoomReady, like we were actually doing some of our own product development. We were looking at how we could get data, from codecs, like, the Room series from Cisco and other endpoints. And we were, analyzing that data and figuring out how we could, provide better insights. And it wasn't something that a lot of companies were really focused on and doing until COVID, right? And now that's like, right. Everybody's kind of looking heavy at some of those analytics and data. And so we're like, I think we're actually we're not going to compete with, every company that has $1 billion that's also trying to solve, that problem. So there definitely is some pivoting and some turning, whether it's a little company like ours or a big enterprise. And I wonder, like, have you heard anything from Cisco about ways in which, they're thinking differently or pivoting or, trying to attack things in different ways? Just curious.
So our big focus over the past couple of months has been, first of all, pivoting away from those huddle rooms.
Yeah.
That's just like you said, that's where our focus was. Now it's two things. It's collaboration and security. So not only do we need to be able to collaborate, so if it's just a video call, something like Zoom, it's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But it's not just the video piece of it. It's endpoints. It's the chatting. It's the sharing of documents. It's being able to collaborate before a meeting and afterward as well with action items and follow-ups. Being able to do that internally with all our employees, but also with your partners and your customers external.
Yeah.
You need to be able to have that interactivity as well. And how do you do that securely? How do you keep the integrity of your information? How do you keep the rules and regulations your company set forth intact, even when you're communicating outside of your company? So just for example, and it's happened to me once or twice, if I, for example, try to send you, Phil, through WebEx Teams a document, which is internal only, it will not go through, and I'll get that email saying, I don't think you read it. You should go back. You're not that bright. It says internal only, right? But those things are important.
Wow.
Being able to keep the integrity of and security of your information. Your information is vital, and it's key.
We
so those are the things, Phil. Yeah.
I was just going to say personally, like I'm absolutely leaning into what you're saying, because my wife, I'm totally like, I don't want to pay for gimmicks. I don't want to pay for that junk that they're just trying to sell me that I don't actually need. Right. One of those things being, the identity theft, insurance. I've always been like, oh, that's so dumb. I'm not paying for that. I do a good job with my data. I don't really. And my wife actually had her identity stolen over COVID. Somebody tried to claim um, unemployment using her name.
Employment. That's a
Um,
big New England thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like, oh, honestly now, like anytime somebody says security, I'm like, yeah, we need more of that. Cause in this world, like that's, people are leaning into our data. People are leaning into, vulnerabilities. And it wasn't anything that she did. They grabbed her data from, something else, and, another entity that had her data. And now we have a lot of cleanup work to do. Right. So, security is a big freaking deal these days.
It's a lot of money being spent in security. Yeah, and I've heard the security. My counterpart in the security PBDS talked to his partners saying, "Look, it's not a matter of if you're going to be hit; it's when.
Yeah.
And are you going to be ready? Are you going to be secure, or are you going to be compromised?"
Yeah.
And that's big. So those are the two huge focuses for us for the at-home employee. Having also the ability to give them video endpoints at home. I know we're working on brand new video endpoints that are not necessarily the Room Kit or like the WebEx board you have,
Yeah.
but something now created to alleviate meeting fatigue.
Yeah.
Phil, I'm on 8 to 10 hours of these a day.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can tell, I've recently had to lift my laptop
Yep.
up to
Yeah.
eye level just because I was getting tired of looking down all day. Right, so now I'm talking to you as
Yeah.
if, and I'm standing. That's something else I started doing, is standing. But for us to create the types of endpoints, because software is big,
Yeah.
software is everything, software is vital. But we also believe the hardware is very important as well. So if I could create tools to help you with your work at home experience, I bet it's going to be very successful.
Yeah. No, I think that's spot on. Cisco has, so there's, there's big meeting platforms, right? And there's a couple, you mentioned Zoom earlier, Cisco WebEx, Microsoft Teams comes to mind. Kind of those are like the three big ones. And, Cisco has really kind of been the leader for a long time in not only the software, like the meeting platform itself, but then also creating their own endpoints that really kind of hand in glove complement the platform. So, I'm as an integrator, as a company that, has services around providing the right solutions, we've been thinking for, the past several months, kind of racking our brain around, okay, well, we do commercial AV, we do commercial conference rooms, meeting rooms, auditoriums, training spaces. And obviously people haven't done as many of those in the last year as historically. So we trying to think about, okay, well, does that mean we transition and we pivot to, can we do services where we, are providing a better solution in people's homes? And no, people aren't going to pay us several $1,000s to come into their home. They don't want us in their home right now anyway. That's for dang sure.
Right.
But to provide, pulling cables through walls and all that, they don't want that. What they want is some better purpose-built endpoints, an all-in-one unit that would be very easy to set up, connect really thoughtfully and well to their meeting platform, and give them that experience that just feels like they're in the room. So I love hearing that. Cisco's been leading the way in commercial space endpoint for a long time. They've had a couple of products that went really well at home with the DX80 and the Desk Pro, but I'm excited to hear there's even more coming down the line in that realm. So that's awesome.
Stay tuned. And if you have a chance, dial into WebEx 1, December 7th and 8th. That's my little plug.
Fair enough. I love it. No, that's right on.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So some of that stuff's going to come out December 7th and 8th as far as like announcement.
I think they'll announce it rather than come out. They're working on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's really good too? You mentioned the other players out there. I think it's also really, really important that Microsoft and Cisco finally came together I said, let's make ourselves interoperable.
Yeah.
It's no secret that the two of us together have they the desktop, we the collab. How about we combine these two and give the customers what they've been asking for the longest time? And I'm very happy to see both companies playing together that way, especially now. I think, and I really do think it was done to do the right thing for the right reasons.
Yeah.
People are home; they're asking for it. Let's give them what they've been looking for.
Yeah. No, that's it's funny you mentioned like they've had the desktop, right? Like, and you guys have really owned a lot of the collab experience. We've had a bunch of companies, clients where, people were, doing some of their chat, doing some of the desktop, on Microsoft Teams, but then back at the office, it's set up for WebEx Teams, right? And like there's a disconnect. Like, you and I get that those things don't really talk well together, but why can't they, right? Like what? And so historically, that's not been an easy fix. But Cisco and Microsoft did really step up, and I love your comment, doing the right thing, making things able to connect and help people navigate through this pandemic and just get technology that meshes together. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's right on. We've it's no secret we love working with Cisco endpoints. It's kind of been how we've grown up in the industry over the last several years, and we love the way that Cisco does cover the conference room so well. Microsoft Teams, doesn't have a dedicated endpoint family or experience. There are a lot of other third parties that are trying to create solutions around it, and the Cisco interop is really great for that. And then we've also navigated ways that we can integrate other room peripherals around the Cisco gear and do like more of a USB connection into some of the broader USB suite of endpoints to solve that problem. So that's been kind of fun, saying, hey, we've been actually navigating doing this for the last couple of years, even when the interop wasn't there, and able to get in and help solve people's problems that way too. So so December 7th and 8th, how do people log in to get some of the updates? Where do they go?
Yeah. So I'll send you the link. It's all going to be online. It's not going to be, obviously, we're not doing anything in person anymore. So it's December 7th and 8th for Cisco partners and Cisco customers to be able to listen to the new world, new vision that we have. You know what they did, Phil? They took what used to be Collab Summit and Contact Center Summit and BroadSoft Summit and made one out of it. So that's the new WebEx One.
Okay.
So you'll hear it December 7th and 8th. What I like about this year, different than other years, we have a whole slew, I think almost a dozen customers coming on and talking about their experiences, what's helped them, how did they get from, especially having a no work from home environment to an 100% work from home. It's not just the technology. That's the easy part. Right. I could give you WebEx and set it up, but it's the people behavior. It's the culture. How do you do that and keep your culture alive and keep that? And that's something that you'll hear about more. No matter how cool your product is, if it's going to be disruptive, people hate change. Oh my, people hate change.
Say it softer. Say it softer. We want this podcast to be popular. Don't talk about change here.
Well, I will tell you, my own doctor told me, look, Gerry, to save your life, you need to stop eating carbs. and I was just, really? Like, I started doing that, kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Just because I don't. But what I'm saying is, people, I won't use the word that I said before, but they need to be facilitated through a change where it's not disruptive, where it's easy.
Yeah.
Where it's, okay, I get it. Rather than, hey, today everything's red, tomorrow everything's blue. Oh, wait, no, that's harsh.
Yeah.
How about we walk you through it step by step?
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, the real world stories, right? That's a big reason why I wanted to launch into, doing this podcast, Room for Heart, is, there's so much humanity that goes into why we show up for work every day, right? Like why we're passionate, what we're excited about.
Right.
I mean, I work for, family owned operated company. You work for a publicly owned and,
That's right.
huge entity, but at the end of the day, we both want people to be successful. We want people to connect, with other people. We want ideas to reign supreme. We want people to be able to collaborate. And, technology, when it's done right, is able to empower and support that and not distract from it. Right. And, so I'm super excited to hear, more from some of those customer success stories, because man, there are some heroes out there that really leaned into,
Right.
the craziness of the world that we woke up to at the end of March. Right.
We had a great partner of ours who helped transform the Jacob Javits Convention Center into a hospital, complete with video at the endpoints
Mm-hmm.
so the patient. Do you know how many patients had COVID and could not see their own families? And FaceTime's okay, but you're using this little phone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It helps so much to be able to have that interactivity with them. There's so much that can be done with all of that. And you mentioned here the podcast about the heart.
Yeah.
I do have a question though.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the chief heart officer? What is it that you do? What is it? You haven't wanted to tell me. You got to tell me now though.
So I twirl around in my chair all day, and
I could do that.
yeah, no. So I was in the sales role for a long time, and I do get really excited about technology and about helping craft solutions that bring people together. But I kind of hit a point in my career where, surprise, my wife and I are having a baby that was unexpected. So we have an 18-year-old, we have an 11-year-old, and now we have a 1-year-old. So the travel that I was doing before wasn't going to be possible, and so my brother is our founder and our CEO, and I went to my brother and said, "Hey, it's been awesome, and the opportunity that you gave me in the sales role, but I need to travel less. I need to be at home more, and so I need to take a step back out of that. So I don't know what's next. I guess maybe I just take a break, for a period of time while we're kind of figuring out adding Walter to the family." And he was like, "Yeah, no, that's great." So a couple of months go by, and our company has been growing, for the last several years. When I started with our company, we had about 40 employees. Right now, we're knocking on 100 door, and
Oh.
and at that point in time, when I kind of took a step back out of the sales org, we didn't really have HR. We had an HR person for a little bit of time, and she moved on, and that was we were outsourcing HR. And my brother was kind of just looking around and thought that there might be an opportunity for me. I used to be a pastor. I was in ministry for 12 years, and I definitely have a huge heart for people. He and I both follow on social media an entrepreneur named Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you've ever heard of Gary V. Gary Vaynerchuk has started an ad agency in New York City, and kind of grew up in social media, and grew wicked fast. Went from just he and his brother started it together to 1,000-person company within like 5, 6 years, right? And he had a sales person, an executive account manager named Claude Silver, and Claude kind of had a similar experience as I did, where she was in the sales gig for a while. She was overseeing a line of business, and but that wasn't what she was passionate about. That wasn't her jam, and she actually decided that she was going to pursue other things, maybe get her master's of social work or something like that. So she approached Gary Vee and said, "Hey, I need to step back." And as she exited, he realized he lost something way more than an account manager in her. That every time she was at one of their different office locations or working in a different account, that she really brought the people together. And so he actually called her back and said, hey, Claude, I want you to be our chief heart officer. And she said, I instantly knew what that meant. That meant that I was going to help him build the biggest honey empire the world had ever seen. And, building a culture on kindness and compassion and gratitude, really thinking thoughtfully about the employee journey. So that's a big thing that my brother has tasked me with, as we have watched, VaynerMedia execute on this chief heart officer role. And for us, looking at the employee journey of, how do we really thoughtfully recruit? How do we really thoughtfully onboard? And then when we have somebody that's a part of our company, what does that, career development look like? And then if and when we get to the point of them exiting the company, let's also be really thoughtful about that, whether that's they're exiting to pursue other opportunities, whether it just didn't work out, between us and them, how could we be very intentional so that they're still a fan after they exit, right? They move on and they still want the best for our brand, and we still want the best for them. So from afar, I've kind of been watching Claude and Gary Vee and following them on social. And my brother actually let me hire somebody that actually knew something about HR. So we brought on an HR manager named Sarah, and she's phenomenal. She is fantastic. And she really helps me nail, the compliance and the benefits and all of those things that I don't know anything about, but I know that they need to be in place to serve our employees really well. And then I kind of think on the vision level, how do we make sure that we do have a relational connection with every one of our employees? I actually do 3 employee meetings every week where I just, meet with them. We put a 30-minute calendar invite. Sometimes they go way faster than that. Sometimes there's a lot to talk about, and then we're able to, put more time on the calendar to finish it out. But I in those meetings, I want to hear from them what they're loving about their job, what's not going awesome. A lot of times I'll ask them a weird question where I'll say, "Hey, is there anything that you wouldn't pick up the phone and call me about? But now that we're on the phone together, it would probably make sense for us to talk about." And that's been super interesting, to hear how people have responded to that. I oftentimes ask them what they're the most proud about that they've accomplished in the last 6 to 9 months. And the guy today that I was meeting with told me being a dad. He was like, "My son is awesome," and he actually kind of teared up a little bit, and he was like, he's a miracle baby. He's in 2nd grade, and he's got good manners. He's polite. He's respectful. He's got a lot of energy and excitement about life. And, and I loved his focus on that and being excited about it. And a couple minutes later, he goes, "But can I give somebody else a shout out?" And I was like, "Yeah, we actually do shout outs. I put together a video every week where I ask our employees to catch each other living out our core values. And then I just kind of recap how our employees are living out our core values." And he said, "Hey, my boss really encouraged me to invest some time over COVID, when things were a little bit slow. And he encouraged me to take this training and this training and this training." And he was like, "Phil, I never went to school. I don't have any type of formal education. I don't, I didn't think I would be successful at those trainings." And he knew that I would be. And so he pushed me to do it. And he was like, "Dude, I'm Dante certified. I'm Extron certified." And he listed off 2 or 3 more. And he was like, "Future's looking bright, dude. there's not a lot I can't do if I don't put my mind to it. So yeah, so that's a long-winded answer to what is a chief heart officer and what do they do. That's I look at the employee journey and I try and make it the best dang journey they've ever been on. So
that's an incredible position, which I bet you in the new world companies are going to start putting more and more people. Like it's not just HR listening to you.
Yeah,
it's not just HR. It's almost like being big brother, guidance counselor, pastor.
Yeah. Shh, don't tell anybody.
I'm really, really happy to hear that. That's I love the story with the dad.
Yeah.
The accomplishment. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I was.
Thank you for sharing that.
I was meeting with another employee a couple weeks ago, and I asked her how kind of the culture in her group was, and she was like, "That's awesome," and she goes, "But like a step removed, it's a little bit weird." And I was like, "Oh, huh. Tell me about that." And she was like, "Well, when my group interacts with this group, I don't feel like they're really paying attention and listening to the things I say." And so we explored it a little bit further, and it was actually super empowering, because I asked her a couple questions about how those interactions went, and we actually got to kind of a root cause, and it was funny, like the fixer in me, right? The fixer in me wanted to be like, all right, I'm going to go meet with so-and-so. And then I was like, no, that's not at all what needs to happen here. This is her story, right? This is her employee journey. And so then, we sat there for a couple minutes, and she was like, this has been really good. I probably want to schedule a meeting with so-and-so and kind of further, make sure they understand, these things. And I was just like, yes, like right on. And, like if we're not thinking about those broader things, right? Like if we're just so like in our day to day and we don't have a chance to step back and be thoughtful about, where we're going and if we're having any fun while we're getting there, and what little ways, what little things we could tweak to just make the journey better. So it's been a really lovely and humbling job to get to have. It's a weird title, I'm not gonna lie. Chief Heart Officer is kind of funny. But I actually went to a class that Claude Silver put on, how to be a CHO, how to be, and she did it with another a guy named Arnaud, and he's a Chief Happiness Officer. Arnaud and I were the only dudes in the class. There was about 30 participants, and so it's kind of a different place to be in, but it is super lovely all at the same time. I enjoy it. Thanks a ton for asking. It's been fun to talk about.
I was really curious, and I knew it had to do a little bit with your great love of passion of people, but I didn't know to what extent.
Yeah. We're a small enough company that I still get to go out and sell things to from time to time. So that's fun. I get that external connection and get to be able to, help people, solution problems. So that's been good. But yeah, no, the majority of my day is thinking about how to, kind of further ignite the passion of our people and how to celebrate, the moments that they really lean into who they are and their ability to bring, all of that into the workplace is a really lovely thing. So,
Phil, with COVID happening, has it made your job easier or harder?
That's a great question. So our company really practices what we offer into the marketplace, and so we have employees in 12 states. And we're all using these meeting tools. And so, when this happened, it wasn't a huge, it was a real big deal for our install business. Don't get me wrong. Right. Like,
Right.
Companies weren't letting us in, for, we went from doing 1,000 hours of install labor a week to, 1 week we had, 10 whole hours of, install
Oh,
labor. So, there was that hit, but like, as far as all the behind the scenes, stuff, our people really did a phenomenal job of working in ways that were slightly, different, out of their home, but still engaging and leaning into the tools. I was actually meeting with one of our people, that's in LA, and he's the only employee we have in LA. And he actually said, "Hey, before COVID, I totally felt like I was on an island by myself. And, after COVID, because the community, the company, the community, is fitting as well, our community,
yeah.
um, has been more intentional about communication and using, these tools even more." He goes, "I feel way less on an island because everybody is now remote, even,
Yeah.
though they're all in the
Even
same
in
town."
Illinois,
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
all in the same place, but it's still remote. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, honestly, it's probably made what I do better. Kind of thinking about that comment from our teammate out in LA, and I've really leaned into, creating update videos and shout out videos, and realizing that at our executive level, we're hearing all the stories, we're hearing all the updates, from the different projects, but like, unless you're connected to that project, you're not, right. So I'm, you know, we're posting videos in WebEx Teams, a couple of times a week, and using, we actually did a company address that we didn't want to make a town hall. Like, we didn't want to disturb everybody's day, but we wanted some critical information to get out from the executive team. And so, our COO and, my older brother, our CEO, and myself just all sat on a call, and I just recorded it. And so, then we were able to just quick publish that through Teams, and, get the message out, in a meeting setting, kind of, without taking up, people's, dedicated hour. So, yeah.
That's great, Phil.
Yeah. How, at a company as big as Cisco, like, how do you feel like it's been working for you? Do you feel like you've been as productive, or, I mean, I heard you say meeting fatigue, but
Yeah, meeting fatigue is definitely there. I think in one way, it depends how you measure productivity. So productivity has gone up, I would say.
yeah,
We're meeting to meeting to meeting, back to back to back to back to back, where before you had some time in between to travel a little, maybe walk over to somebody's cube and talk to them. That's not happening.
yeah,
So in terms of productivity, I think it's gone up. In terms of feeling as a part of a team, I'm mixed on that.
yeah,
On one side, we're on video calls all day with those guys, but it's not as much personal discussions as we used to. There's not as much just leisurely
yeah,
topics, right? If I'm going to meet with you, yeah, I might take the first couple of minutes just to get that done, and then once formalities are over, you're actually doing work. So that's my feeling on that. I think we're much more productive, but I yet need to figure out, like, something that we started doing about 2 weeks ago is just the team that we sat in. There were 6 of us in an
mm-hmm.
area. We just log into a WebEx now and keep it up
yeah,
while you're doing other things and you're doing work. Just to every now and again shout out as if I was shouting out over somebody's cube and say, "Hey, Roseanne," so
yeah, yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And then we're all talking. And we started doing that. That's pretty good for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, that's great. When I was leading a sales team, none of us were in the same town. I had 7 team members, and similar to what you're just saying, I just started opening up my CMR, and I just, every day at 4:00 I had office hours, and, just kind of like you would expect somebody to pop by your office if they knew that you were available. People would just, like, open up my room, ask me a couple questions, about, whatever they needed,
Out.
chit chat for a minute, and then, okay, bye. and I'd have people kind of waiting, in my virtual lobby, so to speak, while someone was, so yeah, I think, being, intentional and thoughtful about, how, if we could be physically together, what would it look like? And then how can we, recreate that, using some of the tools that we have is,
right.
And realizing, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the same thing, but how can we, still lean into it? So that's awesome.
Yeah. It's been great.
Yeah. Cool. Dude, thanks a ton. It's been lovely, sitting and chatting and catching up. And, I love hearing, what you're doing, what you've been up to, reminiscing about, silly days, what seemed like forever ago, but it was only like, 6 years ago or whatever. But, we've come a long way. It's been good to get to do it together.
One day we're going to have that 1,000 box of crayons.
Yes, sir. Way to bring it home. I love it. Thanks,
I'm
dude.
honored that you invited me. I'm honored to be the first one. I hope you guys listening enjoyed today, and I hope you got something out of it. I'm really appreciative for you, Phil, having me on there, and for your friendship.
Yeah, likewise, dude. I couldn't think of anybody that else I would want to do this with, for the first one. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.